Welcome once again. It's the Close the Deal Show with your host, Terrence McCray. Oh, it's so lovely to see you all again. Welcome back. It's the Close the Deal Show. Today, we're going to talk about a new way of marketing strategy. But before we go into this, I want to state a quote. And that quote is, Steve Jobs once said, marketing is about values. So my today guest is someone that I value, someone that I respect, and someone that I look at as a mentor. His name is Remco van den Elzen. He is not only a good friend of mine, but he's going to share something very important for a lot of small business owners and entrepreneurs. Because today, he's going to take the approach in explaining to small business owners and entrepreneurs marketing strategies dealing with today's technology. Please welcome Remco van den Elzen.
Thank you so much for having me, Terrence. Glad to be on the show.
Pleasure is all mine. Remco, could you let our Bay Area viewers know what's your background?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Berkeley, in the Bay Area, but I only lived there for a few weeks when my parents moved back to the Netherlands, where I lived most of my life. But I got into two different things, and those things were technology and surfing. And those two things actually brought me back to the Bay Area because this is obviously a great place for the outdoors as well as for technology. A lot of the great companies are in the Bay Area. So I started my own company in the Netherlands after I graduated. And we were active in analytics, so we provided data for mobile apps. So mobile apps could use our tools to research like the market, compare their performance against competitors, and research the market in general. So I moved from my own company to the Bay Area about 4 or 5 years ago. We had an office in San Francisco. I did it for a while. The company was acquired about 4 years ago, and since then I've taken some time off, and I'm now starting my own company again in a slightly different space, but again in the analytics though. So in the energy sector this time, so less techy, but still a great opportunity.
What was your former company?
It was called Distimo, D-I-S-T-I-M-O, and it was purely focused on mobile apps. And it's actually, we merged with a company called App Annie. It's like a 400 or 500 people company now, and you can use those tools for free to actually track your app. So if any of the viewers have any apps, they can use those tools for free to track how they're doing in the different app stores.
And what companies did you work with before you actually sold it to Annie?
A lot of actually different companies. So if you look on your iPhone right now, today, if you look at the top 100 companies or the top 100 apps, most of those companies we work with. So they can be companies from larger like Facebook or Google, but they can also be smaller developers that make games for kids or which make travel apps, so a large variety of applications. But we had a very significant portion of the global apps using our tools, from the Netherlands to the US to Japan, Korea, China, all across the world.
So how did you market your product for your customers like Google and smaller developers?
Yeah, it's a great question. So actually we're obviously a very small company, so we were just the four of us started right out of college. So we didn't have a lot of resources. So what we figured out is that because we collect a lot of data, we started leveraging that data to actually generate publicity. So we collect a lot of data, so we started writing blog posts and reports about the market in general. So we started researching like how Apple App Store was doing versus Google, for example, and we approached blogs and newspapers to publish that content for free. So that generated a lot of publicity. A lot of people saw what we were writing about, and we did it basically on a daily basis. So we always tried to find something interesting to write about, and people started approaching us to work together instead of us having to look for our clients ourselves, because that's, especially if you want to work with larger companies such as Google or BlackBerry, it's very hard to find the right person within those companies. So we try to convince those people to look for us instead.
Okay. So could you let the Bay Area viewers know that are small business owners trying to compete with other companies but don't have an app for their type of product, like, the local coffee shop? How could the Bay Area small businesses with limited capital stay competitive in information technology world?
Yeah, great question. So I think that there are a few different ways I would look at that question. First of all, there are obviously some companies that are competing with very large companies like Amazon. Let's say a few years ago, or still some bookstores, for example, they're competing with Amazon. It's very hard to compete with Amazon on price. They will most likely be cheaper, and because of the scale and the efficiencies in the business model. So I think it's important to differentiate yourself against those companies and find those things that they can do and you can. For example, there's a great bookstore on 24th Street, close to where I live, where they read books to kids a few times a day. So you can take your toddler and you can listen to them reading books for them, which I think is a great way of attracting traffic and people to the store. And I'm confident that a lot of people will walk away purchasing a book.
So is that a way that a business owner can communicate better with customers?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's communication, but also eventually, like if you have a physical store, I think you need to generate traffic. And for a lot of people, ordering a book on Amazon is probably easier than walking to the local bookstore. But I think if you can generate the traffic and do something unique, something that Amazon can do, then I think it's something that you can uniquely provide to your customers. And I think they're successful doing it. Like every time, I think they organize 3 or 4 readings every day. It's always completely full. And I'm confident people will indeed purchase books because of it. Yeah.
So how does a small business owner learn more about its competition?
I think there are a few different ways. Obviously, you can just do the normal research by walking to the store and looking at what they're doing. But I think you could also leverage technology to do so. One of the simple ways that we did it with apps, which is still relevant, I think, for businesses, is looking at competing apps and see, for example, how many ratings they had, or what people were leaving, what kind of reviews they were leaving for those apps. I think you can do the same as if you're a restaurant, for example. You can look at a different restaurant, which you consider competition. You can look on Yelp. What are people saying about them? What is the feedback they're getting? What kind of rating are they getting? Is it going up or down? So I think you can leverage a lot of data that's already available for free on the internet to really learn about your own business and about the market in general, but also competitors specifically.
Okay, that sounds very interesting. My next question to you, Van, is what are some ways entrepreneurs and small business owners can create an app that are trying to expand and generate more revenue than their competitors that would generate potential customers? And how much would that cost?
Yeah, so I think for a lot of companies, actually, and small companies, an app may not be the best solution because I think you have to take into account that it's relatively expensive to develop an app and to keep maintaining it. Like every time Apple releases a new version of their software, you may need to upgrade it. For example, for iPhone X recently, you need to update your app at some point, and that always costs money every time you do it. And I think for the consumer side of things, many consumers don't want to download an app for every store they frequent and they often visit. So I think for somewhat larger companies, I think it makes a lot of sense. But for a lot of other companies, I think it makes a lot of sense as well to partner with other apps. For example, if you have a restaurant, you may partner with a company like Yelp to make sure that you're visible on the internet and you can do delivery, for example. So I wouldn't always say that it's best to develop your own app. You may be better off partnering with other apps, like Square is a good example as well, where you can accept payment, for example. Everyone can just accept payment with their iPhone. So instead of building the entire app yourself, you may partner with them instead.
So how would a company learn this information? You just mentioned a company called what?
Square. Yeah.
Square.
Yeah.
So Square is the type of company that small businesses can generate payment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So previously you needed a large, how do you call it in English? A large unit where you can accept money.
Yeah. Cash register.
Yeah, cash register,
Yeah.
exactly. Right now you can simply use your iPhone. So you can just walk on the street. You can be you can be anywhere. You can just accept payment from anyone, which makes it much easier for everyone to just start a business because you don't need the big register to do so. So I think there are a lot of apps that can be very useful for small businesses. So I think it's good to always be on the lookout for what companies may be able to help you. Because I think if you adapt those apps more quickly than your competitors, you may be able to deliver a better customer experience, or you may be able to be more efficient than your competitors.
So for a small business owner that has good quality food or the best coffee or boutique shop, but the particular person, the customer, doesn't want to go out at this moment. So through that particular app, could the small business owner make it available for them to log in to where they can purchase off their app?
Yeah, Square as well. They have a delivery app as well, for example, so you can deliver to other companies, and payment and delivery goes to Square. So I think that makes sense. Like for a lot of small restaurants, it's too expensive to hire people to drive around the city to deliver the food. So instead of doing that, you can partner with another company that does it for you.
Yes, that sounds wonderful. My third question for you is this. Based on your expertise with data and analytics, please educate the Bay Area on how this information technology could assist them in making informed business decisions.
Yeah, I think a lot of companies have access to a lot of data they may not always know. So for example, if you have like a Facebook page or a Twitter account, you can get a lot of analytics and data from those companies that can give you insight into like what kind of people are liking your posts, for example, or what kind of posts are generating most traffic. So I think it would be good for a lot of businesses to look at what kind of data is available to them today and try to leverage and learn from it. You may see that some specific posts about a specific coffee, for example, that you make generate more traffic and more people interested in those specific coffees. And I think those are the learnings that you can take and iterate on it and improve your business.
So my question again to you is this then. Where do you find yourself noticing that through these apps, all right, how the next big break can occur with an app for any business?
Break, you mean like the next big thing in apps, or?
Yeah, because companies like Walgreens, CVS, they all have apps where you can log in. So many department stores have apps like Macy's and Nordstrom's. But when you talk about apps and analytics and data and finding out information, and then you're writing this information for companies to notice that you're doing the research to let them know you can work with us and we can provide you better service if you buy into our app. Where is the next big break coming where it narrows it down to where you take out the competition?
This is, I think, a hard question. I don't think I entirely get the question.
Okay, well, let me clarify that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Say, for instance, right, I have a music business, right, a music store, and I want to weed out my competition and draw in new loyal customers that I already have, but new ones. How do I create through my app to draw them in more?
Yeah, okay. I think there are a lot of different strategies for apps to do so. So for example, one is marketing and advertising. You may want to purchase ads on Facebook to target the specific customers that you want to attract. But maybe a cheaper solution would be to partner with other apps, or other local apps or bigger apps that are out there that specific cater to the people that you would like to attract. So I don't know what a great example, but for example, if you're a restaurant app, you may want to partner with an app that can deliver drinks as well, for example. I'm just thinking out loud, but I think there are a lot of ways that you can be creative about it and try to find the customers through different ways than just paying for advertising that can bring those customers at a cheaper rate.
Do most customers go to apps that are branded?
I would think so. I think it's always important for any company or any business to have a specific brand to their products. So I think that's definitely important. But it doesn't mean that, like, as a small company, you cannot have a strong brand. Like, obviously, Apple has a huge brand, but as a small coffee place or a small restaurant or a small boutique or whatever, I think it's within your target audience, which is most likely within the vicinity of your business. I think it's still very much possible to build a very strong brand.
Okay. My next question to you, Van, is finally, how can small business owners communicate to network and stay connected and competitive in the rapid change of technology? How can they do this?
Staying competitive, I think like leveraging data and leveraging social connections, I think is always very important in the tech space and for small businesses as well. So I think it's very important to notice, like, a lot of your offline customers will be moving online, and you may be losing those customers if you're not really trying to engage with them online as well. So I think it's important for anyone to, for example, build Facebook profiles, build Twitter profiles, and be active in communicating, building email lists, for example. The company I mentioned earlier, Square, allows small businesses as well to communicate with their customers. So everyone that pays using Square can opt in for those email lists. And as a small business, you can then approach them afterwards with specific coupons, for example. So you may give them a coffee for free next time they visit. So I think those are great ways to engage with those customers online as well, and to make sure they keep coming back to your store.
That's excellent. You know, because what you're telling me and telling the viewers actually is that you want to be aware of who you're doing business with.
Yeah.
And how you're doing business, because you want to make sure you get the best deal.
Yeah.
In order to close the right deal.
Yeah.
So who do you do business with?
So I just recently started a new company, so we are still very early, a few months old. So in the energy space this time. But I eventually want to partner with a lot of app companies actually and other companies to enable their customers to more efficiently use energy. So I'm actually looking for different kinds of companies that have customer audiences already. So I don't need to acquire those customers myself. And I think that could be a great strategy to grow relatively quickly without spending a lot of money on acquiring your own customers. Yeah.
That's wonderful. That is so excellent to hear. For viewers in the Bay Area, please pay close attention to what Van is sharing, because this information is not only pertinent, but is relevant. And this information can help expand your small business. It could generate new revenue, and it could generate potential new customers. Okay? My last question for you, Van, is this. If you had an opportunity to give advice to a small business owner that had just opened up a store in an area where he was not or she was not visible, what advice would you share with them based on the rapid change of technology for them to draw in new customers?
I think for small businesses, it's and for most businesses, not only offline but also online, it's critical when you're starting to listen to your customers very well. So I would always really engage very deeply with all your customers, and maybe even ask every single customer, like, where did you find me? And what do you like most about my store? Because you can take those learnings and really improve your offering and do the things that your customers like you to do. And I think that there's always an advice to give to a lot of startups. So make sure you really listen to your customers and then scale from there. And I think the same is true for small businesses. Talk to your customers, engage with them, really listen to them, and find out why they value you and how you can use those learnings to improve it.
Well, Van, I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing with the Bay Area viewers how to be more educated in understanding new marketing strategies for their business as well as for the entrepreneurs. It has been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Terrence. Great to be here.
Again, I want to thank the viewers for not only tuning in, but for paying very close attention to what Van has shared with you. So if you're just starting off with your own new business, know this first, because this is what Steve Jobs said. Work on your core values, because your core values is your marketing strategy. It is the foundation in which your business can arise and can take to new heights. So tune in Monday nights at 8:30. It's the Close the Deal show, because today you've just closed the deal on new thoughts, new ideas, but new marketing strategies. Tune in. Have a good one.